Uh, 16 in film time between the two films. I don't think there's necessarily a right and wrong time, but this time felt right because, let me just say, I've been offered money and stuff before to do a third one, and I've always said no. Had no intention of ever doing a third one. But when Adulthood came out, it came out 17th of June 2008, I think. My son was a month old. My first kid was a month old. Almost to the day. And now 8 years later, I have 3 kids, 3 boys. And I see things differently, I act differently. I'm much more of a businessman. I have less patience. I have more patience in the regard that I can tolerate things until a certain point. But now when I change my mind, my reactions are so much stronger. And that's because of having children. I feel like I haven't got time for it anymore. I don't have time for suffer fools. I don't have time for anything. And that made me think about, if you put Sam, it just got me thinking of how I was turning into a man and a dad and all that, and how I will actively avoid trouble. I'll stay silent now when people tell me to stay silent when I didn't used to. But once you start messing with my family, then my reactions are a lot stronger. And I thought, what happens if Sam, a guy who was a one-dimensional bully, who committed manslaughter, nearly murder, but it was manslaughter, comes out 6 years later, goes for another bad day. 10 years after that, when he's 35, what happens if you give that guy a family? What happens if he has children and he can't hold down a proper job because of his criminal past, but he's just doing what he can, he's trying to live a good life? What happens if you take him and you push him? And how far can you push him? And for me, just putting those things like just in real life and then into that character, so how far can you push him before he flips? And that's what this film does. Have you seen it yet?
No, not yet.
It pushes him and pushes him and pushes him, and then there's a certain point where they do a certain thing, and then he just goes. And that's where it came from. It just came from just growing up and having kids. 100% patience, experience. I feel like, I'm a heart on the sleeve guy. I always react emotionally to things. I take insults and slights. Actually, I don't anymore. I used to take them to heart. And I would tell journalists, I'd be like, I'll come and find you, mate. Don't think you can just insult. You can review the film. Don't insult me because I come. And that's how I used to be. But again, growing up and having kids and them asking the same question, you can't just be like, listen. So you learn to be like, okay, well, let me explain to you, and then that changes you as a person. So changes you in all walks of your life, and that's translated to the work and to the film. So I look at the films I did after Adulthood, 4321, which actually was pretty good, and then Story 24 and The Knot and Anomaly, and I haven't directed and written since 4321. I've either directed like The Anomaly, didn't write it, Story 24, The Knot, wrote them, didn't direct them, but all those things, and then they don't get the same sort of respect as those films. And there's when you're younger, or still like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm like, why is this? These people are out of order. Like, it's like, why are they disrespecting me? I've done this film and done that. Why are they disrespecting me? And you but then you have children and your whole perspective changes. And now I look at those films and I go, well, the reason they didn't get the respect that Adulthood got is because they weren't good enough. They were great in their own genres and all that, and I stand by them. I'm proud. This is what this is for here. These numbers, like all the films either written, produced, but they're not good enough. But me as a person and a filmmaker, because of what's happened in my life with the family, and this film is good enough. But also, this film is 100% good enough, more than good enough. But also, I'm at a place now where I don't care if people like it or not. I know it's good enough. I don't need people to validate my work. Whereas everyone goes through those growing pains and those things where you're just like, well, why are you giving it 1 star? Why are you giving it 1 star? Oh, he gave it 4 stars. I stopped reading reviews in about 2011 because I was just like, you know what? No matter what you do, even the shoes I'm wearing, some people go, I love them trainers. Other people are like, I don't like them trainers. So I don't care. Well, some of the talents we discovered here, I think it's not so much discovering, but giving people that are doing well a bigger platform to go, on their way. You've got people like Jack McMullen and Calvin Demba and Fadi El Asidi. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. Sorry, Fadi. But like people like those that suddenly disappears on their CV and then they start getting bigger. Like Fadi immediately got an audition for Doctor Who spin-off and now is in that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, there might be people that say, oh yeah, well he's talented, he's very talented. But this suddenly on your CV just gets you in more rooms, gets you in different places. Ashley Thomas, Bashi, who started out with Adulthood soundtrack and then he's in 4321 and then Shank started off, he just got 24. He's in 24 now. He's in LA for 10 months. Lashana Lynch, Fast Girls, she's in this as well. She's just got a pilot picked up, a US pilot. I can't remember what it's called, but she plays Juliet. It's, I can't remember the name of it, but like a big US pilot. And that's just got picked up for series. Arnold Oceng in Adulthood, The Knot, 4321, a lot of my films. He was then got The Good Lie. He does Hollywood films, and it's like, these are people I can spot, and they might not get the opportunity had we not put them in these films. Their talent would always get them there, but maybe the journey would just take a bit longer. Well, these films, and this was a difficult one. This film particularly because obviously, as a filmmaker, I'm more in tune with just making a film, and so this one has a lot more score than the others did. But there's not a lot of spaces where there isn't some sort of music, and the soundtrack in this one is as prevalent as it was in the other two, and as relevant as it was in the other two, and it's of this time. In a few years' time, people will still be listening to this soundtrack because we've got the Chipmunks, we've got the Stormzy, we've got the Krept and Conan, we've got P Money, and people that are coming up. We've got Laura Mavula, we've got people that are of now, and really breaking ground in their profession, in their industry, and it's a very, very, very good soundtrack. It really is. It stands up to any of the others easily. I'm a very loyal person and a person of comfort, so I will always go for the same crew all the time. That's what I do. If they're busy, then I'll find someone else, and then I form new relationships, and then I'll have 2 choices or 3 choices. So the editor's done 3 films. The costume designer's done every film since Kidulthood, every single one. He's been on every single one all the way through. And even he said he found it difficult on this one because I've as a person I've changed. Like I said earlier, like before when that's a bit wrong. Okay, that's fine. It's like it's not fine anymore. Do you know what I mean? And he found that a little bit like. But we got past that. I still love him. He still loves me. But he's been on every film. So I'll always try to use the same crew. If they're busy, I'll find someone else. So on this one, we got a DP called Aaron Reed. He shot a film that we produced called Legacy, and does a lot of music videos. And he's also black. And it came down to him and another DP. And in the end, because of his experience, and I won't even lie, just because I thought, actually, I don't know where I've seen it. I don't know how many black DPs I've seen in this country get these opportunities. So I was like, well, I believe in your work as much as I believe in that guy's work. But, even if it's classed as positive discrimination, I think I'm gonna give you this job. And I know you, I've worked with you before producing. I'm gonna give you this job and give you this opportunity. And he's done an amazing job. Like, I feel like, when I sit here and say the other things weren't good enough and this one is, I can stand up and say that because cinematically this is a film. I can look back at Adulthood now and as good as the story is, I can go, actually, an exec said to me the other day who watched this, one of our execs, I won't name him, said to me, what I like the most about this one is it's a proper film, like a proper movie. He said, oh, no disrespect, but the other one's as good as it looks like someone just gave you a camera and you guys ran off and shot stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, what? And I get what he means, and I watch Adulthood and I see how good it is story-wise, but it's a little bit chaotic. That was the first film, and it's a little bit chaotic. But I can only see that now because I am where I am. At the time, it's like, well, that's what I think this should be. That's what I think that should be. you know. But because I am where I am now, this film stands up. This is a movie. Like, and Aaron DP, and he adds to that. You know, it's a cinematic piece of work, and I feel like people will be very surprised when they see it. I don't know what I'll be most proud of. I'm proud of all of it, really. I think it's an amazing achievement in 4 6-day weeks. You know, we had a certain exec really turn the screw on us and take a large chunk of the budget in their pocket. And so we had to lose a week off the schedule. So instead of having 5 5-day weeks, we ended up with 4 6-day weeks. And as you know, 12, 14-hour days. Like, it's not easy. So I'm proud of all of it. I think one particular day that was difficult was when the script supervisor went down with an illness or something and had to leave set. And then, you know, that person's watching continuity, they're watching the line, they're watching angles and blah, blah, blah. And whereas a director would usually be at the monitor watching that stuff too, if I'm in the scene, essentially then you've got a rudderless ship. And there's one particular shot on that day where we crossed the line, and it really, and like it's in there, we kind of get away with it. And I'm kind of proud that we get away with it the way we do, considering you literally jumping the line. And that was really annoying, but I think, yeah, so that for me would be something I guess I'm most proud of. A mistake was made because I was on set and maybe other people should have been watching. The script supervisor wasn't there, so she wasn't watching. But the way we've worked around that to kind of work out of it, because we didn't have money for reshoots, was kind of a good moment. But other than that, I think everything. I think people will be surprised how cinematic this film is, and you know how much we use every aspect. The composer's done 4 films. How much we use the score, how much we use everything to make, you know, push the emotion and stuff like that. So, yeah, all of it really. They'll take away what they take away. That's the thing. And again, that's what I've learned. They'll take away what they take away. You know, it was never meant to be a trilogy, and it's organically happened that way. I think the films get better. The filmmaking gets better, and hopefully people relate to the film at the time that they are. Like most people that were, I mean, if you were 15 when the last one came out, if you were 15 when Kidulthood came out, you're 25 now. You know, you've gone. If you were 20, you're 30 now. You've gone from essentially being a child or late teen into probably having a full-time job, or struggling to get one, maybe being engaged, having a long-term girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whatever, maybe having kids. You know, that's that 10 years. The 10 years from there to there, a lot of people would have had a lot of changes in their life, and I feel like they will relate to this film. They'll relate to the changes, even if it's not exactly to that character. They'll relate to the changes that will happen in their life. You know, and for me, when people watch it, I hope that they just see that. You can never tell. I can't say, I hope they appreciate the filmmaking. People don't care. Like, I've realised some terrible films come out and people just go, oh yeah, I really like that. And you want to go, what? But you realise actually people just like what they like. And when they like something and they already decided they like it, it doesn't matter how bad it is, filmmaking wise, they just like it. And so, yeah, they'll take away what they take away from it. I feel like all the films stand alone. You know, they definitely are concurrent movies in terms of the chronological timeline, but you can watch any of the films and then go, oh my gosh, I got to see the others and understand what's happening in the story. And that's always just been the way that I've thought about them. And I think that's because none of them were ever intended. So, you know, Kidulthood didn't set up Adulthood. It was like, that's the film, that's the end, done. And then the ideas started flowing, and it's like, how do we work this out? Boom. Then Adulthood's a standalone film, about a guy coming out of jail. You tack on the little vignettes of Kidulthood at the beginning, and then people go, oh right, it's carried on from that. But even in those vignettes, you see, oh, he did this, then he's coming out of jail. This one is a standalone film, you know. 10 years after an event, this guy's trying to, you know, live a good life, and something from his past comes back. But of course, you tack on the vignettes from Adulthood, and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, he did that, he went to jail, okay, great, and now you're in. And so, yeah, anyone who wants to watch the films individually or feels like, oh, I haven't seen the last two, should I go and watch this? You can 100% watch this one. The film is just really about, you know, 10 years after Adulthood, After Sam came out of jail, he's married, or he's got kids, 2 kids, one of which is his from the girl beforehand, Lexi, and one of which is his with his new woman. And someone from his past comes back and really tries to draw him out, because the person from his past doesn't want to take on this dad of 2. They want to take on the guy that he used to be. They want to draw the monster out, and Sam is really not interested in being that guy. And so they push him and they push him and they push him, and his brother gets attacked, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then they cross the line, and when they cross the line, then he goes. And that's kind of what the film's about, really. It's kind of about protecting your family and looking after your own, and being a good person, and that's really where we find him. Yeah, he's great. I think it was interesting with Mike. I'm sure he won't mind me calling him Mike. It was interesting with him because I had been weirdly, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because people are like, oh, they got him because he was doing this, that, and that. He's kind of really blown up in the last 6 months, and we had already shot the film. But he was on his way. But that wasn't really why he was cast. Because there was other people I was thinking about, but then I saw him do his freestyle, and I was like, man, he's so laid back, and that character I had in the script was kind of like that. He needed to be like the gentle giant who kind of is still with that crowd. And so I thought, I'm just going to be real about it. I reached out to him on Twitter, direct message, followed him, direct message, came back, and I just started talking to him about, if he was interested in, ever been interested in films and this, that, and he said, yeah. I think people had approached him before, and he didn't know if it always made sense. He said, and then I said, look, it's this film, and then he was like, oh, right, okay, this kind of would make sense. And I was like, yeah, you in a film makes sense. You in this film makes a lot of sense. And then it wasn't like he just said, yeah, I'm doing it. He's a businessman. He's a very smart young man, and he's got a good friend of his that is his manager too. So we sat down with them. And I explained, look, this is not just a negative role. This is what it is. This is where it starts and this is where it goes. And explained it, showed him the script, which he read and enjoyed. And then he decided that he wanted to do it. And I was ecstatic, really, that he wanted to. And then, I think set life was a bit tough to get used to because there's a lot of waiting around. And I don't know if he's used to that. But then, on day one, I was like, anything you need, just let me know. And he settled in. The guys in the group of friends that he was in, everyone made him feel really comfortable, I think. And they all became buddies. And I believe he really enjoyed it. And he's really good as well. That's the key thing. You can see when you're watching his music and his videos, like the natural ability to perform. People sometimes think it's a completely different discipline. And sure, acting is different to music, but you can either perform. It's all good being able to spit lyrics, but then some people can perform and others can just say the lyrics on the stage, and he performs. And so if you can hone that energy and that acting talent to to perform those lyrics, and then almost make the lines like lyrics, and when he's angry, he knows he's supposed to be angry, and when he's down, he's supposed to be down. And he's great. I think people will be very surprised. I'm not surprised because that's why I was cast, but I think people will be very surprised. I think people won't necessarily know that he's going to be as good as he is, but he's very good, and I think he enjoyed it. And I think that if he wants, he would definitely have a future in acting if he wants to pursue it. It might take him a while. Like talk about Ashley Thomas, Bashy. It's taken him a long time not to act. He's been acting for a while, but I feel like he's an actor now. More than a rapper. He might not like me saying that, but I feel like he's an actor more now than a rapper. And I think Stormzy's career is blowing up, so he should do his music. But I think there's definitely an acting career there if he wants it.
What the hell is Scarface and The Godfather and movies like that advocating? Do you know what I mean? They're taking stuff that's really going on